Good morning, welcome. It's 10 o'clock on Wednesday, time for another SGS weekly webinar. Joining me today is Greg Warner-Harris. He is our sales and shared ownership marketing specialist. Welcome again, Greg. Been a while since we've seen you.
Yeah, thanks. Good to be here again.
Excellent. And of course, Andrew Markham is one of the SGS directors. He does a lot of our consultancy and demos. Andrew, welcome. Welcome. How are you today?
Good morning, Christopher. I'm very well. Good morning, Greg.
Morning.
So today we are here to talk about the new shared ownership model. And we're also, hopefully, we're going to be taking your questions on that, trying to fill in as much of the detail that we've been able to establish over the last 48 hours. And it has been quite a work behind the scene to try and get anything, which Greg will tell us about. And after that, we're also going to potentially look at some scenario modeling. It depends how far we get. But first, I'm going to hand over to Greg. And Greg, if you could just sort of give us an outline of where we are on the release, the information, and what we know and what is murky right now.
Yeah, fine. Well, regretfully, there's been a lot of rumor conjecture about this new model. And we're not that far further forward than we were 6 months ago. So what I thought I'd do is I wouldn't sort of talk about the whole of the model because that's been done to death. There's been plenty of things about that, but just focusing a little bit on the uncertainty that still surrounds this, and just maybe we can just look at the issues where people are still nervous about the bidding. So I've just got a very brief presentation. It won't be long, just so I can get that get those things out into the webinar for people to think about. So I'm going to just see if I can just share my screen. Just let me know if it's sharing or not. Am I sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Greg. And also, I'm encouraging you to please send questions and comments, and I will get to them. So please do engage.
Okay, what I thought I'd do first is just refresh ourselves on the timetable, what's been happening on this new thing. So, right, let me see if I can get this to go. So, 2019, Generic announced that he was going to shake things up with the new model. And then there was an initial consultation. This was the initial consultation held over the summer of 2020. That's the first time we had the opportunity to feedback on the proposals from the MHCLG. And the MHCLG published the responses. Now, I'm sure a lot of people on the webinar have seen this, but there are 186 responses, 97 individuals. Only 42 housing associations responded, which I thought was slightly low. 22 local authorities responded, and 6 lenders. Now, in that publication of the responses and their reaction to the responses, there were some notable omissions. For example, there was no mention at all of the repairing obligation in terms of responses, which seems a little bit odd to me. If I was a skeptic, I would say it's because the responses were so bad they didn't want to mention it, but let's just say it's an oversight. And also the lend's response to the reduction of the initial share to 10%. I'll come on to that again in a minute. They didn't mention that at all, which again, I thought was very surprising, but that's where we were. So that was the initial consultation. Now, they had a technical consultation, which was supposed to draw out the nitty-gritty. That was in November, and it closed on the 17th of December. And that's what we've been waiting on. And we keep on getting rumors when it's coming to come out, can it come out? This week we had, or the 19th, we had the bid guidance telling us what we need to do if we want to bid for shared ownership or the whole HP program for 21-26. That came out on the 19th. And as of today, there's no published outcome for that technical consultation. So we're still running a little bit blind, quite a bit blind in some areas. So I just checked the capital funding guide to be absolutely sure, and the new chapter about the shared ownership new model has not changed. It still says Homes England is working through the operational and technical parameters of the new shared ownership model, and further details will follow once these have been confirmed following the technical consultation. And just to be absolutely sure, I pinged Homes England. They got back to me day before yesterday and said, yeah, sure enough, we still don't have a date. We're hoping for it soon. So we are running a little bit blind. We've got to get our bids in by, we think, the end of March. And so, you know, there's some outstanding areas of concern from the customers I've been talking to about bidding when they're running blind. So what I thought I'd do, wouldn't look at the whole model, but just revisit the areas that people I've been speaking to are concerned about, but there might be others that we can draw in from the webinar. Okay, so just a couple of things. These are the scores that are in the prospectus that the Homes England will be scoring you on if you're bidding for a registered program. This is, and if you notice, 20% of the score is going to be around. I do apologise. I'll turn my phone off now. Sorry.
Yeah, that's Homes England. It's giving you an update of.
yeah. Obviously, a graduate school of slick productions here. Okay, right. 2 hours is enough. So yeah, see, 20% of the scoring is going to be around home ownership. So we can understand why people are a little bit concerned that they haven't got the full details yet. Bearing in mind, there's a re-emphasis again. It's going back to the Cameron era. It's a re-emphasis again on home ownership. You know, they were at one point talking about 50% of the program being shared ownership. It's not obligatory to bid at 50%, but clearly they are going to score you at 20% on your home ownership contribution. So let's look at the key unanswered concerns that I've been hearing about. Oh yeah, I'm glad. Okay, there's a really good article by Ruth in Inside Housing this month. If you haven't read it, it's worth reading. Ruth Barnes, where she sort of summarises some of the issues around this, and there's some interesting stats in there which I'm going to draw upon in a minute. So the minimum share being reduced from 25% to 10%. Back in the summer of 2020, when this was all kicking off, the rumour was, the gossip was, that this was going to be a mandatory thing. We'd have to start off at 10%. Whereas in the current regime, although it's 25%, if the scheme can't stack up, we can choose, and you know, a lot of developers will start at say 40%, just for example. The rumour was that we were going to have to start at 10%. Now that went away. You know, that we heard less and less of that, and certainly as of 2 weeks ago, no, a week ago, at least 2 lenders at underwriting team level were saying this is not on their radar. Now that's quite tenuous. That's gossip, isn't it? But that's some gossip coming back that the underwriters still aren't sort of aware of what's going to happen there. Bearing in mind, some lenders lend on the basis of minimum amount of lend. Some lenders were actually wanting a minimum amount owned, so they have to change all that. And also, some lenders were lending on the basis of the mortgage cost versus all your other costs and that ratio. So if your rent is going up so much more compared to your mortgage outgoings, then that might breach those conditions as well. So there's a whole bunch of work that the lenders would have to do to make that mandatory. So I don't think it's going to be mandatory. I could be wrong. But if it's not mandatory because they haven't got it on their radar, we can't choose to do it as well, can we? So that is still, I think, something that needs to be firmed up and we're waiting on. So what people are putting in their appraisals and they're selling at, I don't know. I'd be nervous at putting in, if you can make it work at 10%, that's great, because obviously you'll make it work at 25%. Okay, so the cash-based micro staircasing in 1% chunks, people aren't too worried about that. I think the 1% chunks, except for the, should we say, you know, the bureaucracy and the administration around it. Okay. My personal view is I actually don't think it will be an issue in terms of the bureaucracy, because I don't think it will be big volume. I could be wrong again, but I'm just saying that on the basis of, you know, when I had teams that do staircasings, the most common, the modal staircasing event was staircasing out to 100%. There'd been a life change event that meant they could staircase out to 100%. That dominated all the other partial staircasings. And so will this 1%, you know, you have a good week on scratch cards, you're going to go and buy a few more bricks, or you're going to go and buy, you know, have a night out. I don't know. I don't think that will be the problem that some people are coming back at, but I could be wrong. Now, the big one, repairing responsibilities. Just a reminder, the suggestion is that the landlords need to put in £500 per year on some essential internal repairs that ordinarily in the current regime were part of the shared owner's responsibility. In terms of the financial appraisals, and this is not my area, I'm sure Andrew will be able to comment on that. It's not a massive deal if put into the appraisal on a scheme that's advertised over 40 years, but there is some concern about the administration behind it, but also what is essential. So it refers to plumage and sanitary ware, that sort of thing. If, say, for example, the half flush on your downstairs loo was the only flush at work, the full flush would work, is that essential? I mean, you've got a loo upstairs, haven't you? You know, I'm sure we're not going to paint numbers on the door, 1, 2, I don't know. But, you know, there's detail needed around this. So that is one area. But the big area of concern from the people I've been speaking to is, again, the administration around this, because, yeah, people are honest. I don't think you're going to get many people who are chucking receipts saying, I've just done this, I've done that. But out of prudence, will you be going around and survey around to check that it has been done or needs to be done? Will you check that they got a good quote? All that sort of stuff is the bigger concern, to an extent that a couple of people I've been talking to have suggested they might just give out the 500 quid a year regardless, just to get the administration, because I think it'll be cheaper than getting the whole bureaucracy involved. That's a novel approach, but maybe. One other small housing association I work with have suggested they might actually give it to them, the full 5 grand at the beginning of when they sell the home. Now, I don't think that's a good idea for 2 reasons. First of all, we don't know how the lenders will treat that with respect to it being a possible incentive to affect the lending ratios. And also, don't forget, this right stays with the property, not the tenancy. So if you move out after if someone moves out after 5 years and someone else comes in, again, they are entitled to that benefit. So I don't think that's a good way to do, but yeah, giving someone the 500 quid a year, possibly. But the big thing around that is the administration in making that work. That's what I'm hearing about doing that. Okay, now this is an interesting one, and this was definitely asked on technical consultation. Say I win the lottery, I'm a share owner and I win the lottery. Ordinarily, I'd staircase out to 100% because I want to be an owner. But not anymore. I'm going to staircase out to 99%. So I've still got the benefit of the landlord doing my repairs for 10 years. So there was a suggestion there would be a cap on that at 80%. Heard nothing about that. So that's still another outstanding sort of query coming in. I don't think that would be a major. I don't think that would be a major thing, because 1 or 2 people might do that. I think actually people can staircase out. They probably will. So that's the 4 things that I'm hearing. I'm be interested to hear what other people are concerned about. You know, there's some other stuff. You know, the reduced nomination period, I think we're happy with that. The conformity of the lease, we're happy about that. But that's the big uncertainty that's coming at me. So to finish then, I will chuck in a quote I like. I used to be scared of uncertainty. Now I get high out of it. That's Jensen Ackles, the American actor. What I would say is, Jensen, come into shared ownership and you will be off your head.
Does Jensen Ackles have some kind of substance abuse? I don't know. That sounds like an unhealthy relationship to me. So let's go to. I've already got a question here from Lawrence. Is there any impact of OPSO from the new shared ownership model, e.g. possibly allowing lower initial tranche purchase, maintenance funds, probably less justified? I imagine very much less wear and tear in OPSO units, or is OPSO specifically excluded from the model?
That's a good question. This is old people shared ownership, leasehold schemes for the elderly. You know, to my knowledge, that's not involved in this. But you know, again, I could be wrong. To be absolutely frank, it's not something I've been focusing in on. But certainly, the nature of the consultation coming back, I thought it was just the traditional Homes England first-time buyer lease that they were looking to change.
Greg, I've got a question.
Yep.
So you can probably go back to that question as well, and then obviously get more questions. So yeah, regarding on these viability and looking at it from a kind of a perspective of that, so are you modelling a 1% increase from 10% to 25%, and then my understanding was it was you can take 1% up to 25%, and then the traditional way of buying further equity kicks in. Now, I'm not sure where I got that or whether I've read that somewhere. There's been a lot of information floating around. What's your take on that?
Yeah, okay. So there's two elements to that from my understanding. First of all, is the 1% and 10%. So to be clear, the 1% is the cash-based one. Okay. Yeah. So and there's all talk about using HPI models rather than getting valuers and that sort of thing to keep the administration fees down. Yeah. For 10% for bigger shares, you go through the traditional route we do now. Yeah. So in terms of the viability modelling, again, that's obviously, I think that'll be a policy thing for different organisations. But one organisation that I speak to some detail about this, they are actually going to do their staircasing modelling in exactly the same way. Because what their theory is if people do pick up the 1% and they're thinking they're not, it can only help them a bit, because that means that some capital breach comes in a little bit earlier than what their model predicts. Okay. Now, another organisation I know of doesn't put staircasing in their modelling at all. It's just money in the back pocket when it comes in.
We would always support.
Yeah.
I mean, we would support that because of obviously you don't know what's going to happen in the future, and if your appraiser is relying on that equity to make it a surplus, to make it an NPV positive, then that is risky.
Indeed, and I would say a third model that I know of, one association I know very well. What they do is they put modest staircasing viability into their development model, their viability, the ProVal, but they exclude it from their business plan. So the threat to the organisation is not there, just an individual scheme, something that goes wrong on that staircasing. So to summarise your answer, really I think it's down to the individual associations and local authorities how they do it. My gut feeling is the association I talked to said they were just going to forget about the 1% is probably not a bad way to do it.
Absolutely. Well, that makes life modelling more consistent across your kind of stock that you're having. And another question that came to mind when I was kind of talking about this earlier, do you think this is putting off people to doing shared ownership? I mean, if they've done it before and they've been very good at doing it and understanding it, then they'll probably continue. But if they're kind of new coming into it, would you rather do outright sale than do shared ownership? What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, it's when you talk about you're talking about providers, yeah?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to refer to Ruth Barnes's article in Inside Housing, because it's really good. The survey they done, they said 58% of the people they surveyed thought this would result in less affordable homes going forward. That was the concern they had. Now, when you read the detail, I think again it's all around with the uncertainty, and that might go away once we get the information out. Okay, but that was an interesting point, because actually, I looked at this. I'm always up for, I'm trying to be half glass full, always up for anything that makes things easier for people to get into shared ownership, because I think it's such a great tenure, and I like the whole 1%, and really supported bringing the nomination periods down, because when I joined shared ownership back in 1897, we only had 4 weeks to nominate in any case. So that's all good. But it's interesting reading Ruth's article, where she said the majority of the survey respondents thought it would reduce in less homes coming forward. So that is a worry. Yeah. And I think it's the uncertainty, as much as anything, it's causing this worry, which really, I mean, we need to get this technical consultation published and certainly what we're bidding against, because, we've got to put our bids in by end of March. I think it's in the market.
Yeah. And then one further question before we get probably a question from the audience. Do you think this 10% is more geared to high valued areas like London?
Yeah. I think it's that the intent. It's trying to get people who would struggle at 25% onto the housing ladder, and yeah, I think we all support that if we can make it work. But call me naive, but I'm sure the MHCLG have talked to lenders about this. Surely they don't think that the government can dictate housing policy as opposed to the lenders. I could be wrong, but so we need to get this bottomed out, because if the lenders aren't supporting it, it's a dead duck. Yeah,
and especially now that the stamp duty is looks like it's going going to be extended until June. So it's a kind of a real focus that we can get on the bandwagon of this and kind of start promoting our schemes quickly.
Yeah, stamp duty is not such a big deal for shared owners, is it, on first-time buyers?
Yeah.
But of course, in terms of the dynamic of the market, you're right. Yeah, I mean, I'm keen to. I mean, it'd be good if we have people like sort of Metro or TMP who are really getting into the whole lending environment. Had some more inside knowledge on this, but certainly people I've worked with, it's still not big on their radar. There is time, of course, because okay, this is for the 21-26 program, and those houses will be coming out the ground sometime in the future. So the lenders have got plenty of time to talk with government and come up with proposals. It would not surprise me if there was some sort of compromise, between now and bricks coming out the ground, that they might sort of come up with something. Because at the end of the day, shared ownership is blue chip business. But once you've got that sort of amount of, of course, they get the 100%, so they've got their security. But once you get that sort of level of ownership, the argument is it's marginal, and you're going to get more customers coming into shared ownership that may not make it. So I think there might be some compromise on, lending ratios, that sort of thing.
Great.
Thank you very much, Greg. We've got some questions coming in here. So just to begin with, we've got Terry Hibbert here. Hello, Terry. Good to see you again. How do we see Homes England governing this with grant rates? If we have some scales at 10% and some higher, say 50%, but we don't get take up on the 10%, are Homes England going to want grant given back? Is it going to be more administration and evidence on checking and vetting potential purchasers to demonstrate this process?
I would say yes, yes, and yes. So yeah, to all of that. And actually, that's a good question. It's reminded me of another point that's been coming out in some discussion I've been having with providers, and it is related. So let me just sort of roll back a little bit. When we do our viabilities, generally it's 2.75% of unsold equity max. You can go to 3 in some circumstances, but a lot of big providers, they're making it work at less, at 2.5, or even perhaps a little bit less than that. Principle of shared ownership is that always has been that it's rights and responsibilities. We try to make it as close as possible to buying on the open market, which is one of the reasons the repairing responsibility was given to the resident. It's better that that money is kept in their bank to do repairs when necessary than in our banks. Now it's got to be kept in our bank. I'm just wondering if, even though there's hints that there are going to be more generous grant rates, I'm just wondering if actually to get the bids, to win the bids, people will be also tweaking that unsold equity ratio up to the 2.75 to get a little bit more money in. I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to come out in the wash. But certainly, if we do get put in bids at 10%, and we can't sell them and we're selling it at higher ratios, I suspect there's going to, there will be a mechanism to make sure that surplus grant is brought back into the pot.
Greg, so Chris, before you move on there, Greg, you mentioned that some providers are doing less than 2.75. Now, most of the time on viability that I look at, everybody's using 2.75. So are you suggesting that some people are doing lower? I mean, is that your experience? And then are you saying that if we're going to provide the 10%, then we could move that to 3%, which is, as you say, not often used, but would that be more used to cover the shortfall?
Certainly, some providers are not going up to the full 2.75. 5 years ago, I worked for one that didn't do that. Right. If they could make it work, if they could make it work on the scheme. And all I was trying to say is that might be another way that providers who were able to do that on that particular scheme will account for. I wasn't perhaps thinking about the 10% because I'm still nervous that that's actually going to happen. I was thinking more about the requirement to chuck in the £5,000 up to £5,000 to do maintenance repairs. That might be how they claw some back. And and like everything else we've had, this is supposition because of course I don't know what individual provider is going to do, but it's something that we may have considered back at my old organisation.
And what do you need to do to 2.75 has always been something I've looked at. What do you need to do to actually move it to kind of 3%? Do you have to get kind of special permission to that? Do you have to do evidence base the affordability, or what?
Yeah, I'm sure that hasn't changed. You know, to go up to 3%, you need to make the case, and you know, and I remember one scheme. I think we went to sort of 2.85 on a particular scheme that we wanted to bring forward. There was an old building and it had a lot of work there, but it was an excellent opportunity. But I don't think that will change. I think the point I was trying to make is people might just, where they can, nudge that rate a little bit, just to get that extra money in. Even though back in summer, the headline gossip was that grant rates would be more generous to account for this.
Okay, we've got some more coming in here. I'm trying to get through them all. Right, okay, here's one here from Amanda Stevens. Thank you very much, Amanda. Is this mandatory, or can we model an average initial equity, which will allow for low shares of 10% and much higher ones?
Well, you know, unfortunately, I don't think I can offer any more than I did before. I struggle to see how it's going to be mandatory until we've got the lenders on board, and the output for the consultation hasn't come out yet. And in the initial consultation, in which they claimed 6 lenders did contribute to, there was no mention of this. So this is the whole uncertainty element that I think is a struggle. And you know, I'd love to be able to say, yeah, I've got some inside knowledge that yes, it's going to happen, but I don't.
Okay, thank you very much, Greg. Another one here, Peter Bowden. Thank you, Peter. Do you think that 10% sales will lead to less staircasing and people reaching retirement still with a small percentage owned?
Yeah, reaching retirement. That's a very good question. You know, I think it will lead to less staircasing, purely because I think it will bring in more marginal customers who will never be able to. We should generalize, shouldn't stereotype, but it might bring people into shared ownership that ordinarily would have rented and who maybe not on a career path that will bring them into an environment where they could buy more shares. Okay, now that's a bit of a generalization. We're going to need to be careful about doing that, but there is a reality. Not everyone who stacks shelves at Tesco's ends up being the CEO of Tesco's. So let's just be a little bit sort of pragmatic about that. So I think that's one of the concerns of the sector as well, that it will be bringing people into the arena that are perhaps a little bit more marginal. And on that basis, it might be that there'll be more failures. It's a little bit of a myth that shared owners are higher risk to the lenders than other first-time buyers. There's been plenty of surveys to demonstrate actually our customers are not any more of a risk. And of course, the lenders have got the mortgage protection clause in the case. But once we get down to 10%, it might change the outlook a little bit. So yes, there could be people who will be getting to retirement still on low shares. And interestingly enough, in my old organisation, I had two shared ownership schemes that went way back when the tenancies were implied secure tenancies as opposed to assured tenancies. In other words, the rent officer dictated the rent increase. And the rents are so low, no one staircased out. Sort of 20 years on, there are still sort of 80% of them are shared owners, because why would you do that? So, it's an interesting question, interesting dynamic. I suspect I'll retire if I find out the answer to that one.
Thank you. Thanks, Greg.
Not far away.
So I've got another one here. Sumison, hello. Thank you again for engaging with us. So for info on 21-26 bids, there is a 2-track approach with Homes England allowing CME, so no fixed deadlines for bids, but GLA inviting bids by the 9th of April 21. And for some providers, they have not included staircasing in their appraisals. Here we go. This is an interesting. Do you think that with the 1% chunks, providers will be looking to boards to approve staircasing policy for appraisals? Would be good if Homes England could share some of the information from new model as results from IMS showing minimum equity shares.
Yeah, can I just comment on that one? In terms of the CME, I know one organisation who is currently a strategic partner are debating whether they're going to reapply as an SP. but that was more around the hurdle rate than the model that was driving that. So, you know, whether people will just default to CME as the easier route, so they can, you know, they can wait to see what comes out of the woodwork, I don't know. I think there is, you know, the strategic partners, yeah, there's a little bit of a cachet being an SP, and I think they'll want to do that if they can afford, but they can't obviously put any risk on their associations. So I think it will be the very, very ambitious hurdle rates to, you know, 1,500 units that will drive that decision. And sorry, I forgot the other part of the question, Chris. I do apologise. That's the old age kicking in there.
So for some providers who have not included staircasing in their appraisals, and we went over this last time we did the survey, because you know, some will take the view that a development appraisal is, you know, right to buy, and shared ownership staircasing shouldn't be involved in that. That's a Treasury issue. So that's something in some way passing the buck on to Treasury. Yeah, so I know Andrew doesn't like that.
No, it's not. I think it's risky. I think that's the issue. I think your appraisal should work as hard as possible for you of the known, or of what's known, as best you can. You know, there's lots of variables in financial viability because a lot of things are happening in the future, and that's inherent risk of development. So I'm putting another risk on sales values in the future, or is risky. So I think that's, if your appraisal can work without it, then you should do it. And then as an organisation, have a policy or a team to work on shared ownership as an asset thing, and not rely on the appraisal. But that's not, you know, everyone has their view on it, and there's very good organisations that have shared ownership teams, and they are making, and it does well. But it's
yeah, if I can just sort of comment on, I fully agree with that, Andrew, and we need not forget that more organisations into their funding look at bond markets, the Moody's and such like, are putting a very high focus on risk mitigations and management, and how organisations are treating risk is a big thing on the board I sit on. You know, every meeting we're talking about risk, and so, you know, a risk-averse approach where if you can take staircasing at least out of your business plan, if not out of the individual schemes, I think is prudent. You know, and of course, you know, associations now take more focus on market appraisals for their schemes to complement their financial viability appraisals. And of course, we've had inquiries coming into for our services on that. So I think, you know, I would fully support the proposition that, you know, businesses, where they can take staircasings out their business plan, their long-term business plan, is prudent. But as you rightly said, there are some very good quality organisations been around doing shared for a long time who put it in. They put in modest amounts and they get it.
Okay, so going back to what Sue Missons has said, for some providers who may not have included staircasing in their appraisals, do you think that with the 1% chunks, providers will be looking to boards to approve a staircasing policy for appraisals?
My gut feeling is providers won't put that into their appraisals, but I could be wrong. What do you think, Andrew?
No, I can't see that. No.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, let's do you have a different view on that? Let us know. Let's go to another question.
Chris, do you want to ask a question, or do you want me to show? It's quite interesting what Greg said there about doing a slightly higher on the 2.75 on the unsold equity, or a slight change to that. And I could show something in ProVal actually, which I've just kind of modelled. I've got it on a different screen. I've got the kind of 10%, I've got the 25%, I've got the 40%, and I've got those. I've taken no staircasing in, and you can see the MPV. They're all the same kind of unit. So give me control.
Yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to make
up a little bit
now. And that's good that we do that, because Phil Diffie's just come in. Hello, Phil from Stoke. I note that the guidance we have gives a target annual rent of 2.75% with limited annual rises that we should meet. How much mileage is there in reviewing this to offset the maintenance and uncertainty liability? How much difference does this make? So is that what we're about to see, Andrew?
Sorry, I was concentrating on what I was doing. Okay, let me do this, and then you can remind me of that question. So can you see my screen,
Sure.
ProVal?
Yeah.
Yes, can you see that, Greg? Yep. Okay, yep. So I've got these 3 units in here. They're all the same units, apart from one's got 10%, one's got 25%, one's got 40%. So therefore, the same value is the same, 300,000 on each of those. Don't worry about the value where it is or whatever. It's the principles are the same. I've got a 5% discount rate over 40 years, so it's consistent. I've got the same kind of loan rate to discount rate, so that's fine. So the bit that I've put in here is the staircasing value. So there's the 10%, 25% and 40%. So in this column A, I'm saying, because I understood it when I first modeled this a couple of months ago, a couple of weeks ago, is that we've got the 10%. We're going to staircase by 1%. I think starting from the next year, because if you pay 10%, you're going to have little funds to in that particular year to have another money coming in. So I've modeled it for the next 1% up to 25%. So we get to the same position of our 25% position. I'm not doing any staircasing on the other 2 areas, okay, to keep it, trying to keep it consistent as possible. Obviously, in the rental allowances, I'm putting that, I kept the management cost very low on all 3, so the same. I put the £500 in there for the first 10 years in that, and no major repairs. And then typically what we would normally have is a 2.75 of the unsold equity as our rent policy, okay? And then we can then keep everything consistently the same, and I can then go to the results. So the results of this scheme on MPV, because I'm only doing 1 unit, so that's a really good way of having a look in ProVal of the individual units. And this is an area that most of our clients should look at, especially development people, viability, look at the unit results. So open the MPV, you don't have to open it, but you can see it here, that we've got a minus 2,600 on the MPV of our 10%. A positive 2,400, and then obviously our 40%. No staircasing on these 2, but this one going up. So we're losing quite a bit, £4,000 difference between these 2 models, which will be our standard models to do that. So how do I mitigate that? Let's look at what Greg said. So potentially we could increase our 2.75. So what do I need to increase it by to get to a similar position of our unit B, which is 25%? Well, I just played around with that, and if I put this to 285, oh, not 285%. There we go. Look, that's always doing it in front of people. So 2.85%. Go back to section I, and then look. So you can see the MPV, a small increase that is taken about that the maintenance cost over that 10 years. And the loss of percentage, then I can actually get to the first starting point. That's really quite powerful, isn't it?
That's very powerful. Yeah. I wouldn't suggest we get comfortable that we're always going to be able to go above the 2.75, but it does show, particularly for organisations that are modelling it lower than that, and my old organisation did. You've only got to nudge it a little bit, and you're back in the game. So it's a really useful illustration.
Yeah. Okay, good. I thought that would be worth showing.
Thanks. Let's just go back to what Phil Diffie said. I note the guidance we have gives a target annual rent of 2.75 with limited annual rises that we should meet. How much mileage is there in reviewing this to offset the maintenance and uncertainty liability? How much difference does this make?
Well, clearly from Andrew's model, it makes a lot of difference because the amount you're repaying on the maintenance is only what, maximum £5,000, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just I would say, I feel uncomfortable about thinking that we could just regularly do this. The 2.75 target cap is there for a reason. Yeah, we've all gone above one. Many of us have gone above it. We've got dispensation in the past to go above it, up to 3 absolute maximum. I just think you wouldn't want to be putting your bids in.
Yeah, there's a number of ways of skin that, isn't it? I mean, on the modelling I just did there was no grant, so I did it without grant on all 3 products. But you could say there's a higher grant for Model A, which is the 10%, and then lower than on the 25%. So yeah, clearly you can change it by that impact. Well, probably be a more impact, wouldn't it? Because this is on the rent on the 40 years that I was doing it over. So clearly there might be quite a big difference on the initial grant that you require to get to the same position.
Mm.
Okay, thank you. We've got more coming in here. Are you finding any difference between guidance and emerging from Homes England and guidance emerging from the GLA and SO Homes in London, or is it very much the same?
I in terms of what's emerging out of London, I can't comment on that. It's not my patch, but Andrew, you probably got a better idea.
I haven't, but I haven't heard anything. No, a lot of work I've been doing recently has been with the local authorities and doing kind of modelling on that perspective, and they are getting more into doing shared ownership or shared equity and different kind of mixed products. So not at the moment I've got much to say on that.
Okay. Just a comment here from Phil Elvey. Thank you, Phil. In all my discussions of Moody's, their concerns have been around market sales and first tranche sales, not staircasing. And there's a lot, another one from Phil here, Phil Elvey, there's a lot of focus on the 10% model from the RP's perspective. How does it work from a customer affordability perspective?
Well, obviously, the lower the capital value, the lower your monthly outgoings are going to be. But let's bear in mind, in its current climate with low interest rates, the difference isn't as big as it has been in the past. Now we're not going to have those low interest rates for forevermore, but certainly it will bring some more people into the ability to look at shared ownership. The concern that has been expressed around the sector is actually it might bring people who are a little bit more, perhaps a little bit too marginal to be considered for shared ownership at this stage. That is the worry. So I think the whole risk mitigation will need to be stepped up. In terms of how customers are assessed, and the shared ownership specialist mortgage brokers will be doing that with diligence. And if the lenders do come on board, my suspicion is there'll be again a greater focus on that. I suspect they might have perhaps widen the gap on the comfort value on the interest rates, which they do at the moment. They stress test that. They might look at that again, or they might look at perhaps a more conservative debt ratio than they do at the moment. It's all conjecture. I'm not a member of UK Finance who have been talking to the lenders about this, if they have. But I would suspect we'll see that.
Okay, thanks a lot, Greg. So just a question here. This one is for Andrew from Sigrid Houston. Could you show the 10% unit without a staircasing assumption?
Yes, I can. I can do that.
Okay.
Have I got?
You are still presenter, so go ahead.
Okay, so back to my screen. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Not filling on my screen. There we go. That's a bit better. Right, we've got MPV. Oh, what was I doing? I was changing it to 30 years. Let's go back to 40 years. Live modelling. Look at that. Could all go wrong, can it? Let's have a look at this. Staircasing. We take it out. He says. So the idea is thinking you're only going to get the 10% and then no kind of cash injection kind of on that period afterwards. So I've done that. That's it. Everything else stays the same, and we can see the difference there. It's quite stark. So it was minus 2.6, wasn't it? 2.6k. We've now gone to 11. Again, I don't think. Let me just double check. I haven't checked the rent income that I didn't increase that to 2.7. There, hang on. Let's go back to 275. It's going to be quite an impact then, isn't it? 18. Yeah, so that's quite a big swing, isn't it?
Mm.
That you need on a fake scheme like this, average probably house prices as such. You've got a quite big impact of grant per unit, 15, potentially more, 20k.
Okay. Thank you, Sigrid. I hope I've pronounced your name right there. Thank you very much. And now, Julie Gray, what is the cost assumption in this model?
Cost assumption, as in I put the £500 in. Is that what you mean?
I'm not sure. Julie, is that what could you just expound a little bit on the cost assumption, please?
Are you saying that the market sales value? So I put in here a standard kind of. So our allowances in here we've got. Oh, sorry. So we've got 500. We've got a management cost. You know, the important thing is they're all the same. That's the important thing, not what the value is really. Obviously the maintenance is that £500 that we're putting in, and I've got a small voids and bad debts. So I've got a 0.5%, which is a typical kind of standard position.
Yeah. As in, how much is the unit costing to buy in against a value of, say, 300k?
Oh, okay, yeah. So you can see here, I've got a total scheme cost 71%. Or that's obviously all of them. But what I've put in here is a works cost of probably about 18. Yeah, I put £1,800 a square metre on this, and I should have put some probably fees in here as well. I've got a 12%. Yeah, so I've got a standard kind of 12% on fees and marketing 2%, and I've put in some. So capital costs you were talking about. So well, I haven't put some contingency, but it'll be relative, won't it, if I did put that in across the 3 units, because I'm only doing 1 unit of each. So as long as they're consistent in their approach, then we get the kind of the right percentages as such. And you can see on this part is 71%. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, is that lower than the 300k?
Yes.
Melanie Dwyer needs to know why there is no maintenance charge in the 2 of the options. May be wrong, but shouldn't they all show £500 maintenance?
No, because this is the new model of 10%, is 1 to 10 years, is the £500. Yeah. Oh, we've got your mother behind you. Come to say hello.
Hi, Mrs. Bondle.
Hi.
No, she's
Is that the cleaner that just came in?
No, he's getting his flea treatment. That's what it was when she needed to do that in the middle
brilliant.
of the
webinar. That's great.
Okay, so okay, sorry, we've got another question here. Knoxville, you're going back.
Yeah, put the cat down. You can tell we're live.
Are you assuming the maintenance liability only applies to in the 10% to 25% owned bracket, and once ownership hits the 25% maintenance level?
Greg, no, it's
No.
10. It's 10. Yeah, go on.
The proposal was that it'd be £500 a year, regardless of what share was purchased there. Okay, now there was some discussion, sort of talk a year ago, so that there should be a cap on that, so we didn't get the situation where people win the lottery and buy 99% instead of 100%. Okay, that is still outstanding from my view. That I looked at the technical consultation; those questions went in, but haven't got the output out yet.
So, Greg, can I be clear?
It would make perfect sense to me. And we're not going to change anyone's mind on this. But it would perfect sense to me, and I dropped this in as well, is that maybe we give more than £500 per year, but it's done on the share equity owned basis. So the more that they own, the more they pay. for the maintenance, but that isn't in the mix, I don't believe. I mean, a couple of people may have asked that or proposed that in a consultation, but I don't believe that's in the mix.
Right, so Greg, so it is, so on this modelling that I'm doing in front of you here, it should be £500 for any share, so 25% and 40% as well.
I think you should, because this is the big one that's still coming through. Yeah, that's right. You know,
so that's the question, isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's important. You know, because actually, the gossip last year was 80%. It wasn't 25%. You know, but you know, unfortunately, there's been too much gossip to get you. And you know, information is the resolution of uncertainty, and that's what we need.
Okay, yeah. So thank you. That was a good point that someone made there. So I was only applying the £500 to the new 10% model, not on the 25% and the 40% as well. So I've done that, and obviously that will just bring the other positions on MPV down slightly. So you can see my 25% without any share in the future has come down to a minus figure, and then the 40% has gone down to the 14%. Yeah. So thank you for verifying that. Just go back. I've got the maintenance from 1 to 10 years, 500 on each of the product in display. Yeah. Cool.
That's actually really powerful when you look at that, isn't it? You know, and in fact, as a follow-on, when we get the final output from this model, it'd be good to sort of look at this again.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. And then this is what I think, you know, teams, development people, viability people should be looking at. 1 unit of your costs. Yeah. That should be your, you know, should be in your development strategy. You know, your product range should be tested on viability using ProVal. Why not? The best one in the market. And we can help you if you want to. Little plug there. But we can do this, and I'm doing this for a few teams. They've requested, since some of the webinars that we've been doing recently, that we're doing some sessions with them, a couple of hours, half a day. They send me a couple of appraisals. We're doing kind of brainstorming, testing, viability, you know, review. Are we doing the best of our schemes? Can we do it slightly better? You know, so we offer that service as well, and it's a bit of fun. You know, myself and some of the development consultants I work with like doing that. It's fun looking at different units and the mix and getting the best option of it. But definitely, yeah, get your suite of units and test them, and then you can kind of really start getting into the details of what discount rates we're using, what period we're using this over, what works for us. Does that float? Can we make that work? And let's take out the grant first. Let's work it on actuals of what we're delivering, and see if we need to tweak it, and have that conversation if we need to. Let's challenge it. Why not? Sorry, go off my soapbox.
No, that's great. Thank you. It seems to me as if we've wrapped up. A lot of questions about the cat. Yeah, he's 17. I've had him since I was in university, and his name is Knoxville, and we've kept him going. Lots of vet bills all the time, but he's a great cat. I think we've wrapped up today. I think it's been a really helpful workshop. Obviously, there's a huge amount of uncertainty in the air, so you know we're gonna. Okay, just one really quick one. Are we going to touch on the new?
This probably be part 1, and there'll be a part 2 coming, I suppose, when we actually do get the actual detail of this. So thank you, Greg, for doing it.
We will. Yeah. So stay tuned. We are going to follow this up once we have some more information, and also, are we going to touch on the new right to shared ownership? Patrick Hickey's just asked, and I think we should certainly revisit that as well. So it's coming up to 11, so I think we've probably done what we set out to do today. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you so much, Greg, for being on top of it like this, and doing everything you've done the past 48 hours to put this together. Andrew, thank you for modeling. And yes, we're going to say goodbye. Everyone have a great day. Sorry, Andrew.
You've got some handouts, and what's the timetable? We might as well kind of touch on what we're doing in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we can do that. So there's some handouts here, our consultancy services, and also next week we have a local authority webinar. This is all based on how local authorities can work better to be income generators for councils, and how we're helping them to do that. So yes, that is what's up next. So yeah, please do get in touch with myself or Ricky. We're here to help you to buy. So let us know if you have any needs, and we can do a discovery call with you and just let you know what sort of services and what tools are in your arsenal, how we can help you in this battle. So thank you again, third time wrapping up. Thank you everyone for coming today, and we'll hopefully see you all in the future. Goodbye, Greg.
Thanks,
Goodbye, Andrew.
See you later, guys. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye now.